Welcome to Bicycle Maintenance with a Fairly Average Mechanic, and today we're going to be looking at a important but relatively minor, or minor but actually fairly important component of the bike, and that is how to change the height of your saddle and how to make adjustments to the saddle so that it's comfortable for you when riding the bike. Now, you may have just got back into cycling as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. You may have seen or read about Grant Shapps' new £2 billion investment in cycling lanes around the country. And you may have thought, well, the best way for me to get back into going to work is to cycle. So you might want to do a little bit of maintenance on your bike, and doing the occasional bit of maintenance on your bike is very important. But also, if you're able to do certain things on the bike, that will save you the expense and occasionally the trouble of going to your local bike shop. You should always, by the way, patronize your local bike shop if you need to buy stuff for your bike rather than buying it online. It is very important, if local bike shops are going to continue in business, that they are patronized. But in terms of doing work on your bike, minor things can be quite expensive to get done at a bike shop, and they can be things that you can do yourself. So this series of videos, Bicycle Maintenance with a Fairly Average Mechanic, is designed to show the person who is relatively new to cycling how to deal with some of the things that they may encounter in keeping their bike in tip-top condition. So in order to look at the saddle and make adjustments to it, we need to go over to the bike. So come with me and let's go to the bike. Well, here we are at the bike. The bike is in a bike stand. It doesn't need to be in a bike stand. It is a useful tool if you want to buy one. You can quite often get them fairly cheaply at Lidl or Aldi or Halfords or your local bike shop, but you don't need a bike stand. So here we can see the seat post clamp. Here is the seat post, and above that is the saddle, which we'll see in a moment. Now, this particular seat post is secured by this Allen bolt here, and there is actually another Allen bolt on the other side. Now, on your bike, it may be, the seat post may be secured in this way. On the other hand, there may be one bolt. It may be in this location. It may be in a different location. If you've got a fancy new carbon aero bike, it's quite possible there is some kind of recessed or bolt that is accessed from the join here between the seat tube and the top tube, or it may be at the back here. But it's going to be somewhere around where this seat post setup is. Now, I've zoomed out, and here's the saddle, as you can see, and here is the clamp that holds the saddle to the seat post. And we'll be looking at making adjustments to the saddle a bit later in this video. For this now, we're going to be looking at how to make adjustments to the seat post itself. So we'll go back down to where the seat post is attached to the seat tube. In order to raise or lower the seat post, we have to undo this Allen bolt here and the one on the other side. If you watch my video in this series about essential tools to do maintenance on your bike, you will see that the most important thing is an Allen key or a hex key. This one is made by Park Tools. You don't need to buy one by Park Tools. They tend to be more expensive than other tools. Any Allen key will do that fits this particular bolt. Of course, you may ask, well, why do I need to move my seat post, Julian? What difference does it make? Well, the height of the saddle relative to your feet on the pedals is a key factor, not only in how comfortable the bike is, but how efficient it is to ride it. Now, there are a number of different ways of measuring what is the best height of the saddle for your particular body shape and your particular bike. I'm not going to go into that in detail in this video. It's something that is partly based on personal preference. It's partly based on various recommendations. I will give you one fairly common and widely used suggestion, and that is when you are sitting on the bike, you're sitting on the saddle, and you have your foot on the pedal with the heel resting on the pedal, then your leg should be straight. And that, incidentally, is your right leg with your right foot resting on the right pedal, not your right leg with your right foot resting on the left pedal. So say that again. When you're sitting on the saddle and you have your heel on the pedal and your leg is straight, that is the correct height for your particular shape and your particular saddle. But there are different ways of measuring it. It's worth looking at a number of different ways or reading a number of different ways, and of course personal preference and how you like to ride the bike is ultimately the best way of choosing. Alright, you've found a bike in the shed, or you've bought a second-hand bike, or you're using one of your children's bikes. You want to adjust the height of the saddle. You take your Allen key and you unscrew this particular bolt, and you'll remember the mantra, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So if you want to loosen Lucy, turn her to the left, and you do the same on this bike because there is a bolt on the other side. On this particular bike you can see that there is a measuring scale or a distance scale here on the seat post, which makes it easier for you to make adjustments to the saddle and then put it back in the right position. You may have that on your seat post, you may not. If you're using a fairly old bike with a steel seat post, it's unlikely that you will have that distance marker on your seat post. In that instance, the best thing to do is to use a bit of tape, a bit of sellotape or electrical tape to mark the height of your saddle, and that's the way if you remove your seat post and put it back, it's easy to remember where it should go for your particular height. Having undone this bolt and the one on the other side, I can then jiggle the seat post and move it up and down. I won't change the height of this particular saddle because this is set up on my daughter's bike and it's the right height, but move it up and down, put it at the correct height for you based on the measurements that you've made, and then tighten those bolts. And remember again, righty tighty, turn it right, i.e. clockwise, to tighten it up. If you watch my video in this series about the use of a torque wrench, and here is a torque wrench, you will know that it's quite important to use this so that you tighten the bolts to the correct amount and not over tighten them. On many of the components, and including on this bike, it is marked just here at the back what level of tightness that bolt should be tightened to. And in this instance, it actually says 5 Newton meters. So I would set my torque wrench here using this scale, which you can just see here. I would set that to 5 Newton meters and then put it into the bolt, tighten it up, and when I reach the requisite level of tightness, there will be a clicking noise. Hear that? That clicking noise indicates that it's reached 5 Newton meters, and I don't tighten beyond that level. So we've set the height of our saddle on the seat post, which is here, and we now want to make some further adjustments to the saddle clamp, which is here. Now, there are a couple of reasons why you would want to make this adjustment. The first thing, of course, is you might decide that the saddle that's on the bike is not particularly comfortable. You want to get a new saddle and change it on your seat post. So that would be reason one that you might want to make adjustments. Second reason is because you want to change the fore and aft movement of the saddle. In other words, you want it either further forward or further back. And that is to do with the reach, i.e. how far your arms and your hands reach to the handlebars when you're sitting on the saddle. And again, you want to be in a comfortable position so that it's comfortable when you're riding the bike. Now, there are various ways that you can calculate that. You can even spend quite a lot of money and get what's called a bike fit, and if you've bought an expensive bike, there can be some benefits to that, or you can just set it up with what feels right for you based on some research that you might do on the internet. In order to make these adjustments to the saddle, you're going to have to find the bolt or the clamping mechanism that attaches your particular saddle to your particular seat post. It might be here, it might be here, it might be here, it might be underneath here. It depends on the bike, and it depends on the design of the saddle and the design of the seat post. There ought to be some standardized system for attaching a saddle to a seat post. It doesn't seem to be that complicated to me, but it isn't. There are lots and lots of different ways. In this particular bike, the clamping bolt is under here, so let's have a look at that. On this particular bike, the clamping bolt for the saddle is here, and you can see where my Allen key is now slipping nicely into the hole like that. This incidentally is a different sized Allen key from the one that we used on the seat post bolt. This in fact is a 6mm Allen key. The one for the seat post bolt was a 4mm Allen key. You may just be able to see here where I'm pointing that it indicates that the seat post clamp bolt should be at a tightness of 14 to 16 Newton meters. So that's a lot tighter than the 5 Newton meters that we had with the seat post bolt. On this particular bike, the clamping bolt for the saddle is here, and you can see where my Allen key is now slipping nicely into the hole like that. This incidentally is a different sized Allen key from the one that we used on the seat post bolt. This in fact is a 6mm Allen key. The one for the seat post bolt was a 4mm Allen key. You may just be able to see here where I'm pointing that it indicates that the seat post clamp bolt should be at a tightness of 4. In order to make adjustments to the saddle, we need to loosen this bolt, and as it's done up to 15 or 16, sorry, you saw me doing a righty-tighty there when I should have been doing a lefty-loosey. No, you didn't. Now I'm sorry about this. Now I'm doing a lefty-loosey, and old Lucy is not playing the game here, is she? Right, come on Lucy. Right, there we are. We've loosened Lucy. Having loosened Lucy, you'll see that there is movement in the saddle. We can move it fore or aft. No, we can move it fore, i.e. forwards, or aft, i.e. push it backwards. And the other thing that we can do is change the angle of the saddle. Yes folks, the angle of the dangle. Why would you want to do that? Well, your saddle should ideally be flat, i.e. you could put a spirit level on if you had to work out that it was completely flat. But you might find that for your particular physiognomy, i.e. your particular body shape, you prefer the nose of the saddle, which is at the front obviously, to be slightly higher or slightly lower. Now, it's generally better for it to be flat or very slightly higher, because that will help in terms of how you sit on the saddle and where your seat bones sit on the saddle itself. But the art of, or the science of sit bones and the comfort of a saddle is fairly complicated. If you're just setting up a bike to do a little bit of cycling, you shouldn't need to worry about that too much. The best thing to do is to set the saddle up in the most comfortable position for you when you're riding the bike. So make those various adjustments here, and then tighten up this bolt again using our famous righty-tighty now, and there we are. I tighten it up like this, and then we get the torque wrench and set it to 14 to 16 Newton meters. So I've changed the setting on the torque wrench. Don't know if you can just see it there, but I've changed it to about 15 Newton meters. So I put that in the hole, tighten it up, and it requires quite a lot of strength and effort, And there we are, we heard the telltale clicking that says it's reached the right level of tightness. And there you have it. We've set the height of the saddle by making adjustments to the seat post bolt. Then we've adjusted the saddle itself on the seat post, and we now know how to change a saddle. We know how to alter the fore and aft position, i.e. how much the saddle point pushes forward or how much the saddle goes to the back. And we've also looked at how to raise the nose of the saddle or to lower the saddle, whether we want it completely flat or slightly higher at the front or slightly lower at the front. And that's how to make adjustments to your saddle height and to how your saddle sits on your bike in terms of its fore and aft movement and its up and down movement. It's very important that you get a nice comfortable position on the bike. You'll find it easier to ride for long distances, and it will save you getting pains and troubles in your bum. So, very important. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you look at the others in the series. Hope coronavirus isn't causing too much trouble for you and your family. Hope you're enjoying getting out on the bike and riding on what are relatively quiet roads at the moment. Let's hope it stays that way. And I'll be making further videos. Make sure you tune in. If you like these videos, please subscribe using the button at the bottom. If you click the thumbs up sign and share it with your friends and click the bell so that you get notification when a new video is posted, and keep cycling and see you next time.